Hello, and welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Parks and Travel Show with Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith. We're the crazy mother-daughter travel team and publishers of two digital interactive publications. We have Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. That's our variety publication. And it does cover travel and wine and food and history and nature, you name it. And we also publish Parks and Travel Magazine that obviously covers parks and travel. But it also covers our Love Your Parks tour, where we travel full-time on a quest to visit and document all of America's parks. Not just America, we'll hop any border across any pond, but we're on a quest to visit and document parks and their communities and share all the stories that we can find. So you can keep up with everything Big Blend. Just go to BigBlendMagazines.com. Now, we love connecting with travel writer members of the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association. We always get to hear about all kinds of new destinations and adventures. And on today's segment, we're chatting with travel blogger Becky-Pokora, and she's going to join us to talk about the Black Hills and Badlands of South Dakota.
Cool.
I know, right? You can keep up with Becky's adventures, and she likes to get into her adventure. She doesn't like to just sightsee or go, look at that. She likes to actually experience and do things and get interactive. So you can keep up with her adventures. Go to sightdoing.com. So it's the opposite of sightseeing. So it's S-I-G-H-T, sightdoing.com. Welcome, Becky. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me to share a beautiful part of the world with you.
You know, and you've been all over. How many countries now?
I'm at, I think, 45 countries at last count. So I've been very fortunate.
And you've pretty much been to like almost every state too. I was looking on your website and the map, you seem to be pretty full.
I'm getting close. It's my goal to hit all 50.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, you know, I love your concept of sight doing. It's not a concept because you're actually, it's like being interactive and not just, you know, looking at a statue and going, oh, look, I saw the statue.
Yeah, I think it started the whole age of Instagram where everybody goes to take a picture, but there's so much more when you just get really involved and take the time to see something and really understand it.
You know, that's a thing too. Do you take time and do things like cooking lessons and, you know, it looks like you've been surfing, taking surfing classes?
It depends on how you define the success rate in that, but I've at least sat on a surfboard and paddled a little bit. Whether or not that counts as surfing is a different story.
I know that feeling. When I try to have we lived in South Africa, and a friend of mine was like, here, I'm going to teach you how to, you know, surf. And I ended up by the pier in Port Elizabeth showing my butt to the world. Like I was just like, I was straddling the board. And that was my experience. So surfing did not happen. Belly boarding is more like it. But yeah, the Black Hills and Badlands of South Dakota. So this is an area, Nancy, you haven't been there yet, have you?
No.
I
have to really investigate, you know. I always want to know why they call them the Badlands. Yeah, some of the photos you sent, it looks like you've got the whole rock formation Badland scenery to take in there.
For sure. And if you look at any of the iconic photographs of the Badlands, you'll see these beautiful layers of red and yellow rocks. And it's just gorgeous the way the light hits them. But I happened to be there during some not so perfect weather where there was no light and it was very overcast and foggy and misty and rainy. And in that kind of weather, you really start to understand why someone would call them the Badlands. It is a very desolate and rugged wilderness. And if you're not careful, it'd be very easy to get lost out there.
Uh-oh, you know how that is. And you know, the other thing too, when you think there's prairies out there, right? Because we just came back from Colorado and that the areas we were in, there were prairies, and it was this whole different experience, even just with the birds and the kinds of flowers and things.
Absolutely, and I think people overlook that, but Buffalo Gap National Grassland is kind of outside the Badlands. It's another big area protected by the U.S. government, and I believe it's also the second largest national grassland. So you just see these incredible prairies, and if you look closely, you will see wildlife out there, whether it's antelope or bison. People ignore fields, but they can be just as beautiful as the rest of the country if you just keep your eyes open.
Agreed. Agreed.
I think usually there's a lot of wildflowers depending on the time of year you visit, but that's something that some people do overlook too, because you have to really look for them sometimes.
Absolutely, and that attracts a lot of birds as well. And that's wildlife that unless you're a birder, you tend to overlook. But I saw some very beautiful birds in South Dakota. And even as someone who isn't particularly into birding, it was a very special part of my trip.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. When you're out there, you've got the nature, and you saw the is it buffalo or bison? Someone's going to get mad at me no matter what I say, right?
I believe the animal is officially known as the North American bison, but buffalo is a colloquial term that pretty much everyone understands as one and the same.
They're massive, right? I mean, I still haven't seen them out in the wild, and you see them on ranches and things, but to see them out in the wild, that's got to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, a large male adult could be over 2,000 pounds. And the incredible part is that these bison are not really spooked at all by cars or tourists on the road. I certainly wouldn't recommend getting out of your car, but you can approach them on the road from a safe distance, getting much closer than you would expect in your vehicle. And to see them up close like that, you really do get a big sense of their scale, and you can really appreciate how large these are.
It's like buffalo, water buffalo in Africa. And, they just walk out into the road and surround your car and just look at you like, what are you going to do about that?
Traffic jams,
Yeah.
South Dakota style, that's for sure.
Well, I like that. So definitely an outdoor destination with parks, the nature as you're talking about. What are some of the experiences too in the outdoors? We're talking about surfing, but are there things like kayaking? Are there rivers and things like that people can go do that, or obviously hiking and things like that?
So hiking is the big one. There's also a lot of just outdoor recreation as far as ATVs and things along those lines. But Pactola Lake in South Dakota is huge, and people don't really think about lakes in South Dakota, but it is a big area, stunningly beautiful if you had a boat or you wanted to rent a boat, either motorized or do your own paddling, either way. And then the other big thing in the waterways in South Dakota is fly fishing. There's some great trout up there, specifically in Spearfish Creek and some of the other rivers in the area. And if that's a sport that you're into, it looked pretty epic. I'm not much of a fisherwoman, but it sure seemed like we saw a lot of cars parked on the side of the road to go after those trout.
And guys get in those fancy pants, trout catching pants.
Yeah, that's it. Called waders.
Waders, yes.
I call them fancy pants, and maybe they don't like that.
Sure, people appreciate that.
I don't know, but so the outdoor, the nature, to me, the history. I mean, everyone, come on, you guys have got to have watched Deadwood, right? It was one of the best series ever.
Oh, awesome.
So, did you get to go to Deadwood?
I did go to Deadwood. It's kind of cool. They do a few reenactments of shootouts on the street. I want to say it's 3 or 4 a day. You'd have to look up the specific times if you were in town and you wanted to see them. But they have actors just doing that Old West feel. You can also go and tour the cemetery right outside town, either on your own or with a guide. But the history there, with Wild Bill and everyone out there, it's just kind of cool to put things in person, right? So you hear about things in books or on TV, and to go look at it, some of it looks very unchanged from what you would imagine in the 1800s, and then of course other things are brought back up to modern day. So it is fun to see the juxtaposition of those side by side.
So when you went there, did you stay in Rapid City? Was that where you stayed and then toured around?
I flew in and out of Rapid City, but as someone who prefers that outdoor nature experience, I spent a few nights in Hill City, which is in the Black Hills itself. So you have a little bit more of that topography, the forest surrounding you, a little bit more of the quiet. Rapid City, it's not huge, but it is definitely a thriving downtown area. So someone who is more into having fine dining at night, or at least the ability to walk around, might find that a better fit. I also stayed in Spearfish Canyon one night, which is a really cool experience because it is massively dark. If you're into stargazing, it's just a really cool area to get outside, and there's not a whole lot to do after the sun goes down except enjoy that peace and quiet. So that's something you'll either love or hate.
I'm going to love that because
that sounds good to me.
Yeah, sky pollution, is such a big deal and overlooked. And, when you go out and you see the stars, we car camped outside Petrified Forest National Park just a few days ago. And, it was really magical because we had the full moon coming up, and it just kind of like bathed us. And the stars were so clear and heavy. You just remember, like, oh my gosh, as a kid, you're always like, oh, look up there, but when you're in a city environment, you forget just how awesome the night sky is. I mean, it's pretty spectacular when you get to see the clear sky, so I'd be into that for sure. I'd really dig that. So when you stayed in places, is it and just in general, do you gonna go to chain hotels, or do you like Airbnbs? Do you like to camp?
I do all of the above, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah.
There are plenty of chain hotels either in Rapid City or in some of the northern Black Hills like Spearfish or Deadwood. On this particular trip, I stayed at independent places. They just seem to have better locations for the nature experiences I was looking for. So the one in Hill City was a little cabin so that you could kind of make your own meals and things along those lines, which is important if you're a little bit ways out of town. You don't want to be commuting back and forth, especially after dark. And in Spearfish, I stayed at a beautiful lodge, the Spearfish Canyon Lodge, which has this great fireplace in the lobby and seemed like everybody kind of went to hang out there together. You meet a lot of interesting people in situations like that.
That's really sweet, man. I like the cabin experience. I just think it's cool. And, at the end of the day, you kind of want to sit outside. That's our thing. So was it like that for you, where you could go sit outside and just take in, the nature side?
Absolutely. So we had a great fire pit that you could build a campfire if you wanted to, and just kind of sit out in the beautiful fresh air. Or if that's not your thing too, we had a really nice living room, or if the weather doesn't agree with you. So having that extra space of a cabin is a huge benefit when you're traveling.
You mentioned weather. That's something I wanted to ask. When do you think is the best time for people to look at visiting? I mean, is the fall, would you still say go in the fall, or, that you may get some snow, but it might be really magical?
Yes, so everybody there seems to think that the high season is now running through the end of September. That's a new development. It used to end right around Labor Day, and it's going a couple of weeks longer. But the weather that time of year in September is beautiful. October, I believe, would be just as nice as long as you're packing a few extra layers. Winter can be harsh with a lot of wind. So that is something to keep in mind unless you're specifically going there for some of the snow sports, whether that's snowmobiling or snowshoeing or anything along those lines. The other thing to keep in mind is in the heart of summer, it can often bring a lot of hailstorms. So even for someone like me who's used to packing a rain jacket and just making the best of some wet weather, hail can obviously put a big change in your plan. So that's something to keep in mind if you are road tripping in July or August.
I agree. You never know. I think it's like that now everywhere, right? It just kind of, the weather seems to be changing all over the planet. So it's kind of be prepared on that. So would you go back?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a very underrated part of the country.
Mhm.
It does not look like most other places I've been in the USA, so that's saying something for sure. But what I really liked about it was within a relatively small geographical area, you can do anything from the rolling hills and wildlife experiences, ponderosa pine forests, to that otherworldly Martian landscape of the Badlands, to the lakes and the creeks and the rivers and that beautiful clear water that you can see down to the bottom. The prairies are there. So there's just a lot of variety in a very small area. And if you do like outdoor activities and outdoor recreation, I think you could easily spend an entire week there. But even if that's not 100% your thing, it would be very quick and easy to fill 3 days or so.
Oh, wow. Cool. What experience did you miss out and say, okay, I've got to do that when I come back?
So totally on the other spectrum away from outdoor recreation, there is the Minuteman missile site, which are the old nuclear silos. And that fills up very quickly if you want to tour it. They have 6 people on a tour because of the staircases or the elevators only fitting so many people on them. So you have to reserve that quite a bit in advance. And I missed out on that opening. So that's a good reason for me to come back. And one of the other things we missed out on was the Mammoth site. I can't pull the correct title off the top of my head right now, but there is a big exhibit with all of the woolly mammoth fossils.
Oh, Nancy.
Wow, cool.
How they actually kind of prepare or discover those, as well as some of the history on the animal. So that would be a very cool and unique experience that I need to carve out some time and head back for.
I want to do that. Nancy, that's your thing, the mammoths.
I like that.
We just came back from Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument in Colorado, and that was trippy. I mean, just seeing all these fossils and some of the things, like, I think, wasn't a hydrangea flower that they had fossilized? I mean, from 300 million years ago. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about, the animals that were out there, and you're standing there going, really? Like a hippo used to walk by here? And but the big woolly mammoths, that would be just, I want to see that history. That history that's the thing. Would you want to go into, like, if they taught you how to do a dig or something like that, you would want to do that?
I would certainly be open to it. I love learning the context and the how-to of anything. So that would be, I think, a very interesting way to get a better feel for the history, the very long-term archaeological history there, and certainly something you don't find every day.
When it comes to what you write about, it's your site doing.com, right? So when you look at doing, what was some of the experiences that, for you were like, okay, I'm doing this, what in South Dakota and also in the Black Hills area for you?
For me, the big one was just getting outside and hiking. There's lots and lots of trails in the area, including Black Elk Peak, in Custer State Park. That is actually the highest point east of the Rocky Mountains, or even west of the Pyrenees. So anywhere between North America to Europe there.
Wow.
That's a pretty cool thing to say that you do, to hike up there. But there's also a big cultural element there as well from the Native Americans from that area. And you can really feel how special some of these places are when you put yourself in their shoes, and hiking up there and seeing the prayer flags at top. That's just a great way not only to connect to the nature, but also to some of the cultural elements that were there before you.
I love that, and I'm glad you brought that up. And it's kind of an interesting thing when you also have Mount Rushmore out there too. That's interesting when you look at the presidential history, but then you got Crazy Horse. I mean, there's all these different things out there, for people to look at. But I think a lot of people, when they think of South Dakota, that's pretty much where they think Mount Rushmore. That's it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think everybody stops at Mount Rushmore just because they've heard of it. But honestly, that was a very small piece of anything I did there. Worth seeing, of course, but that should just be the start of things rather than the one and only highlight.
Did you taste the local brews? Because I hear there's breweries out there, and that's a very important part of this. Is you got to have good beer after a hike.
They have a lot of breweries there, and it would be interesting. You'd be driving down these roads that felt like you were in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden a brewery would pop up right on the side of the road, and you'd wonder, going there in the middle of nowhere. And then strangely enough, there's also some wineries in the area, which I did not expect
Wow.
at all. But I tried a rhubarb wine from one of the wineries, and I gotta say, it doesn't taste like anything else I've had before. It's kind of a fun experience to try. And unlike popular places like Napa, you can usually get in and out for a tasting for free or for a very low price, and with no waits and no reservations. So it's a whole different change of pace.
Yeah, that I was going to say, is it if the area is, kind of like a hidden gem of our country kind of thing, is it kind of a slower pace in regards to not having too many, not over touristy, let's put it that way.
Not over touristy, but I will say, because the towns are quite small, if you're there, everybody's trying to eat at the same 3 or 4 restaurants.
Okay.
So you should still maybe make some reservations, especially if your schedule is locked in stone. Or find a self-catering accommodation where you don't have to worry about that as much. Pack a picnic, things along those lines. It's not terribly crowded, and you can find lots of quiet spots off the beaten path. But if you are trying to go to those 2 or 3 places right in town, you might have the same idea as everybody else.
Yeah. Did you recognize any food that's very local, like a local flavor? Every place seems to have its thing. We just found out Little Rock, it's cheese dip. So everybody's got a thing. Did you discover anything like that?
I think the big one is bison meat. So bison steak, bison burgers. That was everywhere and consistently very well done, which is something that you may have tried at home, but not prepared by the experts.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a bison burger. I don't know. I'd be like, oh, the poor bison. That's just me. Yeah,
so those are being sourced from farms, not the wild bison that are roaming around the national park or the state park. So they are technically 2 different animal groups, but I can understand if you spent the whole morning watching them through your camera that you might not want to be eating them for dinner later that night.
Isn't that weird? Like, we take a picnic, and we like sometimes they have hard-boiled eggs in there. Like, we pretty much picnic everywhere we go. And you like have a hard-boiled egg or something like that, and then you look up and you're looking at the birds and you're like, I'm eating your babies. That's terrible. Sorry. Nice conversation. I know the conversation just went weird, but it does happen with travel. So what got you started in being a blogger, and what started you with was writing something you always did, or travel? Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Writing was definitely a second love in my life. I actually started out in financial analytics, so the complete opposite side of writing. And it started out as a creative outlet, as something I would do as a hobby in my spare time to share some of the things that were really special experiences in my life, and caught me by surprise at how many people were actually interested in what I had to say. But now it's a real joy and a real pleasure to be able to do that as part of my job, and to share these experiences and hopefully inspire other people to go out and see the world.
Exactly. Now, I know that you've got your website, everyone's sitedoing.com, and the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, we do a lot of shows with them and have the pleasure of chatting with their members, travel writers especially, and because they also have destinations and tour operators and, all kinds of chefs and you name it, being members of the organization. And everyone, you can check it out at ifwtwa.org, stands for the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. And, it's so fascinating because you look at these organizations, and a lot of times we hear that people join them. It's really the networking, and to find out, that kind of network of writers supporting each other. Is that part of the reason you're a writer that as a member with them, or is there any other benefits for you?
There's lots of benefits, but for me, it is mostly the community. Writing is very much an independent, lowly, self-employed type job. So unlike most people who walk to the water cooler on Monday morning and chat with their colleagues, it's nice to have a built-in community, even if it is online or through various meetings during the year, to be able to have that camaraderie that isn't quite as easily found when you're working from home. So that is a big piece. But the organization also helps set up some trip ideas and kind of connect you to people. If I'm a writer, maybe connecting me to a visitors bureau to get some more information and try and help us all out as we work toward a common goal.
Right on. That's true. I mean, because you've got to all work together, and I think it's important what travel writers do in regards to showcasing places. Like you're saying, this, South Dakota is a place that's, you don't always hear about, and it's really nice to learn more about it and get inspired to go, hey, let's go check out something different and unique and new. And I think it's important. It's an important part of our economy too. Going back to those finances, is travel. It's a huge part of it. So it's very cool. Where's your next destination?
I am actually heading to a different national park in October. That'll be Guadalupe Mountains National Park in Texas. So that's outside of El Paso, and it is another one of the lesser visited parts of the country. And I'm sure it's no less beautiful than the more famous ones.
In the fall, it's supposed to be absolutely spectacular. It's like Great Basin in Nevada. It's got that same, that kind of, you're going to see fall colors there from what I've seen. Just friends who have been there. It's really, really beautiful. And are you going to be able to get down to Big Bend from there?
Unfortunately, not on this trip, as everybody on this radio, I'm sure, can attest to. There's only so much time to see things. So I'll save that for another visit.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, where have you not been that you're dying to go?
On my list is the Ozark Mountains. I'm sure there's a lot to see and do there. And again, it just looks like something a little bit different from my home. So that is high on my list for the next year or so.
Ah, right on. And you're in Buffalo, New York, right?
I am. So I have my own beautiful things to see and do in upstate New York.
And would that be it's a 4-season destination. So is there any outdoor destinations that you would recommend people going in Buffalo?
Outside of Buffalo, in Letchworth State Park, it's probably one of the best state parks in the entire country. We call it the Grand Canyon of the East. It is a very deep and beautiful river gorge. You can go rafting, you can go hiking, and the fall colors there are spectacular. It's lovely under the snow when it's freshly blanketed in white. So it's something that I think everybody around here absolutely loves.
That's a thing. When we look at winter, we still have picnics in winter. We have picnics in the snow. We did that in the Sequoias, wine and, cheese out in the snow. It's pretty.
It's fun.
So do you like to go out in the snow? I mean, because we can't ignore that part of it. And I'm talking beyond skiing and that there's places to go like Yosemite. It's one of the best times to go to Yosemite is in winter. It's beautiful and quiet.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do is invest in a nice pair of thermal underwear. It'll do you a lot of good. But, if you don't mind putting on an extra layer or two, Buffalo has a lot to do in the winter. A lot of it's outside, and Buffalo also knows how to feed you well and get you some great drinks also to kind of warm up afterwards inside. So you get the best of all worlds.
Right on, right on. Becky, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Nancy, you want to go to we could go to Buffalo and Bison Land, right?
Yeah, I'm going to get some Long Johns.
I know, get some Long Johns and I want to go out to Deadwood and I want to go out to all the parks you were talking about, Badlands and the Black Hills region. It sounds beautiful. We actually might be doing this next year.
Well, make sure to send me some pictures because it's amazing.
Yeah, I will for sure. Now you're on social media, right? People can follow you on social media?
I am. I'm on every single platform is @SiteDoing. So that is my username, SiteDoing. And I am always online and looking for new conversations and new people to connect with.
Right on. I'm gonna have to like follow up on everything because, that's the thing about social media. And IFTWA, man, their hashtag IFWTWA on Twitter rocks. You just see all these destinations. I watch it every single day, and I'm like, look where they went. Look where they went. That's so cool. You see all these different like foods and the architecture of around the world. It's awesome. So I want to check that out. So sitedoing.com again, everyone's a place to go. And for the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association, it's IFWTWA.org. Of course, you can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. We list all of our shows. We air Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sundays, and episodes go live then. You can listen live or later on demand anytime. And the best thing to do is to get our newsletter. It comes out once a week. You'll either get the latest articles and upcoming shows, or you'll get the latest issue of one of the magazines that come out every 2 to 3 weeks. So again, bigblendradio.com or bigblendmagazines.com. So Becky, we got a special song for you because I knew you were in New York. So we had to go, and this is a band that's based in New York and Australia, and it's called the Walkabout Band. And they're awesome, and they love travel. And of course, the lead singer, Scully, he goes back and forth to Australia and and they're in Long Island area of New York. And so this is a song, Traveler, and it's about actually getting out there and doing things. So we thought we'd play that for you. Have you been to Australia?
I actually was just there earlier this year and have a lot more to see in such a beautiful and big country.
See, I knew it. Everyone, here it is, Traveler from the Walkabout Band. You can keep up with them at walkaboutband.com. Thanks, Becky.
Hey, across this green